Just to give a acknowledgement here at the beginning about our friends and schools and districts and just everyone in the West and everything that is going on. I know it's hard to believe that it's been over 2 weeks since the hurricane hit and the recovery and everything that's going on. This is the link to the centralized site for the state where donations can be collected, and just I know that we're all just thinking about everybody out there and doing our best to do what we can to support them. So I just want to make sure to acknowledge that up front. Okay, so here is the intro slide for Classroom Magic with Magic School. And Vera and I were talking about this before we got started about how even though Magic School has been around now for over, this is their second year, right? And things have really changed with this tool. They've started off with just a few teacher tools, and they've been adding things. And over the summer, they added a whole lot of new tools on both the teacher side and the student side. So I've tried to go in and update things and add some more tools on both sides of the fence. So we're going to go in on the teacher side and look at that and do a really good tour. But then I'm going to save a good chunk of time to also go into the Magic School student side as well. So we're going to cover a lot in the next 55 minutes. So for those of you who have not been to Wednesday webinar yet, my name is Stacy Lovedahl, and I work for NCDPI's Digital Teaching and Learning Division as the Western consultant. And in addition to that, I've just been doing a deep dive into AI and AI literacy and doing a lot to see how this can be applied to the classroom in both supporting teachers and educators in workflow and efficiency, but then also in classroom instruction and improving critical thinking and creativity, and really literacy, AI and digital literacy skills for students. It's really important for our students in their future, because this is the world that they're going to be living in, world that they are living in, right? So we are going to cover what is Magic School, and then also Magic School student side, do a really good tour of the features, and spend some time exploring and creating, and then sharing out in the Padlet, and then doing the same thing on the Magic School student side, and pack that all into this next few minutes. But before we get started, if you would jump into this Wednesday webinar Padlet. So if you are on slide number 4 and click over here, and we could drop the link into the chat as well, if that makes it a little bit easier. And this is the Wednesday webinar Padlet. I just kind of keep adding columns to it for each of our sessions. So you can see there's a bunch of stuff over on the right-hand side, but our columns are over here on the left. And so in this first column, if you would click this little plus sign right here and just introduce yourself and what your role is, so that I know, do we have teachers, classroom teachers in the webinar? Do we have instructional coaches, ITFs, digital learning facilitators, administrators, just who's in the room, so I have an idea of who is here. So if you're in the Padlet, go ahead and click that. It'll open up a post somewhere and let me know who you are. So you can type your first and last name, whatever you feel comfortable with, and just a little bit about what you do. I'll know if they're new because all the ones down here are from the CuriePod one that we did this morning. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I can see them starting to pop up now. Onslow County. Hey, Onslow. Good to see you. Sarah, elementary teacher, AIG specialist, using AI with your students. Jennifer, math consultant from DPI. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you. Okay, now, Belva, thank you for coming back. This is like your AI download today. Okay, now in addition to that, since some of you are doing the intros, also over there in the second column, you can see that I have a poll. So I was mentioning this again this morning. I'm obsessed with Padlet and all of their features. One of the features that Padlet has added relatively recently, at least new to me, is the ability to create a poll. So once you get done doing your intros, if you would jump over to the second column and just take this quick little poll to give me an idea of your familiarity with MagicSchool. So the first question is just about MagicSchool, the teacher side. Okay. So the teacher side is all of the, like, it's basically workflow and efficiency, right? Making lesson plans and newsletters and all of those teacher tools. So do you use it a lot? Are you just getting started? Have you not used it at all? So do that one. And then the second question is MagicSchool's student side, and how familiar are you with using that? There you go. So I'm going to let that one run for a second. And then what we can do is, once you see this, there we go. I appreciate you guys doing that. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to run, I'll jump back over there and we'll and check the results in a few minutes while you guys are doing that. And we're going to continue on here and just do a little bit more of the intro. And for those of you who have just jumped in, the link to the presentation is go.ncdpi.gov/classroom magic, all lowercase, and that will get you into the slides. So we are going to talk about MagicSchool and all of its features. On the teacher side, there are over 60 AI-powered tools that you can use in the classroom to do everything from lesson planning to differentiating things for your classroom to communicating, making rubrics, analyzing data, just all the things that teachers do in the classroom on a day-to-day basis, administrators, EC teachers, counselors, just everything, anybody in the school building that needs to get something done. The MagicSchool has tried to figure out a way to use AI to make that side of things go a little bit easier, a little bit faster. Their philosophy is that teachers are working too hard, have too many things on their plate, and if AI is finally the tool that can make these things go a little bit faster and take some of that work, that burden off of our plates, then let's figure out a way to do that. They have also come up with a student side, which is now up to a little bit over 40 AI-powered tools for students to use. But the key thing here is that they are curated and customized by the teachers first. So teachers are in control of them, and we'll walk through that in a few minutes. And we customize them, put them into rooms, and then give the students access to them via a classroom that you set up first, and you deliver the experience to your teachers. And there's a comprehensive dashboard behind the scenes so you can see what your students are doing. Just a real quick note before we dive into these things, some of the best practices for using AI for teachers, and then also giving some AI literacy to your students as well, is to always be aware that there is an AI behind the scenes doing the work in all of these tools. And like any AI-driven tool, it has the potential for bias and inaccuracies. So you're the humans in charge of this. So whenever you generate something, even if you go to really careful lengths to make sure you're using your North Carolina state standards and that you're typing in instructions and making sure you're real meticulous about that, when the AI goes and generates a lesson plan for you, you still need to review it and make sure that it is correct and it's generated the information correctly. So we kind of call that the 80-20 approach, where the AI is going to do 80% of the work, but the human is that last 20% and make sure that it is actually correct and really fits the needs of your actual classroom. So know the limits of MagicSchool. Know that it does have a certain cutoff date. And I was working with a class late last spring, and they were using the AI tool in Magic Student called Raina, and they were asking it questions. And one of the students said, "Well, why is Raina lying to me?" And I said, "Well, what did it say?" And they said they had asked it some question about something that was, a current thing that happened. And I said, "Well, where did you find out about that?" And he said, "On TikTok." And I said, "Well, Raina's probably not going to know about whatever happened really recently on TikTok, because everything has a certain training date. All AIs do. Some of them access the internet, but MagicSchools does not have direct access to the internet. So if you're asking about current events, it's not going to have that information." And then lastly, make sure you're protecting the privacy of your student information and never put personally identifiable information directly into any tech tool, but especially in AI. So student names, ID numbers, things like that shouldn't go into MagicSchool. So it might say that it's going to help you generate behavior plans or interventions and things like that. So always anonymize the information before you put it into the AI. Okay, so if you are in your MagicSchool account, it's going to look something like this. So the main screen has a search bar across the top and then some information over on the left-hand side. So there's a little search box right here, and then all of these little tabs or buttons across the top. And when you click them, it'll sort of filter out all of those 60 tools, because that's a lot to look at when you scroll through them across the screen. And everybody's a little bit different. You might use the buttons across the top to search for planning tools or content tools or tools that are associated with creating questions. Other people, and personally, what I do is I use this search box. If I'm looking for something that's related to creating lessons, I'm just going to type the word lesson in, and it'll filter them out. And then when I want to get back to everything, I just clear it out and I click all, and everything comes back to the top. So just depends on kind of how you're organized as far as how you're going to search. The other thing that they have added recently is a For You ability. So if you are getting into MagicSchool recently and it starts asking you a bunch of questions about what you're interested in, what you teach, what your role is, then don't just kind of skip by those really quickly, because what it's trying to do is figure out more information about you and what your educational role is, so that it can customize and bring the tools up to the top that it believes that you would be most interested in. Because just like any good algorithm, it wants to bring the things to you that it thinks would be most helpful. So it's using its algorithm for good, I guess. So that will be the reason for that. And then it'll try to pop up things that you're more likely to want towards the top. And then you can also star things that you use most often to keep those towards the top. Okay, so there's your search. And you can star things to keep the tools you use most often up towards the top. And then over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see Raina, the educationally trained chatbot. So that's direct access to an educational AI, which is the most current version of ChatGPT behind the scenes, although MagicSchool doesn't say, pin themselves down to which AI they use behind the scenes. If you ask them directly, they don't say exactly, but we believe it's probably the most recent version of ChatGPT. And I think that's it. Oh, and then this little blinky heart right here, if you click on that, it'll take you over to MagicSchool's social media page. And there's a lot of shout outs on there, but also a lot of times if you click there, you'll see tips and tricks from other teachers who are sharing how they're using AI or using MagicSchool. Okay, so if you're in MagicSchool and any one of their tools, along the top, you're also going to see the page set up very similarly all the time. There'll be the grade level, the standard, there'll be all kinds of boxes for you to fill in. But up at the top, I just wanted to point out that there's a star for exemplar. So sometimes if you're looking at something for the first time, you might want to have an idea of how MagicSchool kind of expects a typical response to look like once it's generated. So if you click this exemplar button, it'll show you a typical response so you can have an idea of what it might look like once you create one. Down at the bottom, if you've got access to either your free trial or a paid version, unfortunately, once your free trial runs out, this freezes and you won't have as much access as you do if you've got the paid version, but you'll be able to do more with the custom prompts. But I wanted to point this out because when I did have access to the upgraded version, I was able to create a mild, medium, and spicy prompt, which was one of the things that they had me go through during the training. And it was a way to differentiate a standard lesson into different versions of the same lesson with the click of a button. The way I do that now is I generate my lesson in MagicSchool, and then I copy it into a Google Doc, and I can go over to either Raina over here on the left-hand side and have it do the exact same thing, or I can go over to an external AI like Gemini or ChatGPT and have it do the exact same thing. So there are ways around it. Okay. The other thing that you're going to see whenever you're in an output is once you're done, you can copy it, you can save your resources, and then you can export it to any other location so that you can keep your output someplace in a more permanent basis. This is really helpful if you're using the free version because in the free version, you only have so much access to storage within the platform, and then you eventually run out of space. And it's also helpful to keep it in your Google Drive or wherever you store things so that you have all of your lessons right where you always access them. So a couple of quick notes about Raina. Raina is an educationally trained AI assistant that is built right inside of MagicSchool. And one of the reasons to point out the difference between Raina and, say, using an external AI like ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot is that when we're prompting an external AI, you have to give a lot of context and write a very well-written prompt. And inside MagicSchool, you don't have to give it quite as much context on the educational side of things because a lot of that is built in behind the scenes by MagicSchool. So you might be able to leave out a little bit of that educational jargon and educational lingo and go directly to customizing it for your classroom and your school context. So you still need to personalize it for your educational setting, but you can leave out a little bit of the more global or more general education context because MagicSchool has built that in. Okay, so before I go on to practical applications, does anybody have any questions about any of that? I'm going to check over here in the chat. Okay. And also I lost my Padlet, but I'm going to look for it. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's my results. Already used it a lot. Just getting started. I accidentally voted myself. Oops. And then I'm going to scroll down here to show results. And student side, not used it, just getting started. Okay, that gives me a good idea. Thank you guys for voting. I appreciate that. Okay, let me go up here and get my presentation back. Okay. So some of my favorite tools in MagicSchool, okay? So kind of organized a little bit by category. So we've got instructional materials, differentiating, communications, and then generating original content. So a couple of broad categories here. So we're going to start up here with creating some instructional materials. And then I'm going to want to show you the screen, but then I'm going to go ahead and log into MagicSchool. And if you guys want to open up a tab and get into MagicSchool and sign in and kind of follow along, we're going to spend a few minutes doing that before we jump over to the student side. Okay, so under create instructional materials, kind of the basic things we do, right? Lesson plans, rubrics, assessments, build classroom community, and unpack standards. Favorite things to do. Does anybody, just real quick, if you want to type in the chat, or if you don't have access to the chat, go over to the Padlet. Does anybody have other tools that they use all the time that they would recommend that we touch on really quick when we jump over to the platform? So go ahead and type in the chat or add that to the Padlet, and I'll bring those up also. So I'm going to exit out of full screen and jump over to MagicSchool. So if you go over to magicschool.ai and sign in, and if this is your first time jumping over there, it'll ask you a couple of questions about your educational role and that sort of thing. And then just answer those and then sign in with your school account so that it knows you're an educator, and that will get you in. And when you first get in, you're going to be in a screen that looks like this, and you'll have the search bar up here at the top. You'll have your favorites. You won't have any favorites right away, but eventually you will. And then you'll have this screen with all of the tools listed in, just a random array. So that's why this search is so helpful. You've got your search bar and then all of your tabs. And you'll know that you're on the teacher side because the background is going to be gray. Okay. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, you've got a choice between MagicSchool, which is the teacher side, and then Magic Student. And when you click Magic Student, the background turns purple, and that's how you know you're on the student side. And when I say student side, as a teacher, you're still in control, but these are all of the tools that you as a teacher could choose to customize and then deliver to your students. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to click back over to the MagicSchool teacher side so that we're back in the gray. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to show you real quick is about creating a lesson plan. So and like I said, my favorite way to find things is to just type in this search box, and as soon as you start typing words, it starts filtering things out so that you can see everything that's related to creating a lesson plan. So we have lesson plan, a lesson hook, an SEL lesson plan, and a 5E lesson plan. So a couple of different choices. I'm going to keep it simple and just go with a lesson plan. So we click on that, and it opens up here. And so we've got our choice of grade level, topic, standard, or objective, where you've got a little paper clip so you can actually attach something to it. additional criteria. You also have a paper clip, so you could attach a PDF or some other type of a document to it. And then you could attach your standards to set to align to, so you could actually attach a PDF of your standards if you wanted to upload that. And then up here at the top, we've got your exemplar. So if you click on that, it'll actually show you an example of what a complete lesson plan would look like if you were to generate it. Okay, so I'm going to choose 5th grade, and I'm going to go over here, and because North Carolina has changed our science standards, and I don't know them off the top of my head anymore, I'm going to just jump over here to our handy dandy standard course of study and open them up. And you never use the entire standard, right? I'm going to go to a substandard. So I'm going to grab our standard right here and copy it right out. And move this out of the way. Here we go. Okay, and paste it right in there. Now, you could put in an objective, a essential question, something less than just this. But understand that if you were to just type in ecosystems or something less specific, then it's going to go out to its AI and get anybody's version of that, right? And so best practice would be to go to the actual North Carolina Standard Course of Study and get our standards and put our standards in there so that it knows not to go to the Common Core state standards or to the Texas standards, but to go to North Carolina's Standard Course of Study, right? Under additional criteria, this is where you would put in that we're having it do a lesson plan, but in my case, customize it for a 55-minute class. You would want it to include differentiation strategies for multiple ability learners. So think about the context of your classroom and add additional criteria in there for your learners, for the technology that you might want to include. If you want it to have the lesson to have customizations for stations, anything that you would want it to include that would be specific to the way you teach and the way your classroom is set up. So add all of that into your additional criteria, and then down here, standards set to align to North Carolina. And once you type that in, it should remember it, and then click generate. And that's all there is to it. So once it does that, it'll go out and it'll look at our state standards. It'll create the assessment. It'll create key points. It'll give you an opening, an introduction, guided practice, independent practice. It'll give you the entire thing, and it gives you the option to copy, edit, export it. It'll read it aloud to you. It gives you all of this information, and under the upgraded version that we have in our county, I have more options down here. Under the free version, when you click actions, you have the ability to translate, but I think the rest of these are grayed out. So there are limited options depending on what version of MagicSchool you have. Okay. Are there questions on this before I go on to the next thing? Okay. So the next one that I wanted to show you a little bit about before under creating materials is the standards unpacker. On instructional materials is standards unpacker. This is another one that I think is just so helpful. I think everybody has probably been to some version of standards unpacking at some point in our instructional PD life. And it's really good to kind of dive into the nitty-gritty of understanding our standards, but it also takes a lot of time, and on a daily basis, we kind of have to get on with things, right? So let's take a look at what the same standard that we have right here that I just created a lesson for. If we were to take that one and go over here and find standards, the standards unpacker, and what you would be able to do with this in real life. So you click 5th grade, you add the standard in there and see what it says. So not only does it break it down into the skills and really, tear apart that standard for you, what I love about it is that it creates your learning targets, which I could turn into an essential question really, really quickly. It shows you your concepts, your key concepts. It gives you your expectations. It gives you some examples of teaching methods, and then it gives you assessment ideas. You can take each component of this and then go back over to, say I want to have assessment ideas, a rubric for a presentation. I can take that over to the rubric creator and create a rubric for that. I can do peer review, and I can go over and create an example of that for kids to use. I can do an ecosystem comparison chart and create a lesson for turning that into an activity for kids to do. So just by unpacking the standard, and it took me like 5 seconds to do that, this generates ideas for the entire lesson just for that one substandard out of that 5th grade standard. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you is under differentiating. So we've got text rewriter, text leveler, text scaffolder, sentence starters, and text translator. So under text rewriter, let's take a look over there. I'm gonna go back on my screen and go. So click back on your screen, so follow along with me, and clear out your search bar and type in text, and all of them will start coming up, right? So we've got translator, summarizer, rewriter, all of these different ones. So if we've got text rewriter and text leveler, right? These do exactly what they say they would do. You've got a 5th grade piece of text, and you would take the text and you would either paste the original text in here or you would paper clip it. And I'm going to show you an example using the exemplar, what it ends up doing. So they've got an 8th grade level. They've got the full text of The Great Gatsby here. So it has to be text that you have, access to, right? And then if you scroll down, it will take that text and level it for whatever level reading you need it to be leveled to. And I've had teachers go and compare this to the Lexile level that they need it to be in compared to the Lexile level that it's at, and then and find it to be pretty accurate when they've done that. We also have access to a site called Lexile and Quantile Hub. And this is statewide access. You can sign into this and you can actually check the Lexile level of things to make sure that you've got things on the right reading level. Okay, the next one that I want to show you is down here under Engaging Families in Communication, and just some really simple tools that are embedded into MagicSchool are the newsletter and the family email. So again, if you're back here in MagicSchool and you click back, and up here under Search Tools, just type in email, and it'll clear everything out. and you've got professional email and email responder. And it's just a really quick way to start helping to, just create emails that you might be in a really quick rush to be creating and sending out to the family and the community. You know what you want to say, so you type in the information and it will. So here I've got Mrs. Smith. And the email that you paste the email you're responding to here, and you want to send back some information to whoever you're responding to, and you click generate, and it will give you an email back that sounds really, really good in just a few clicks of a button. So you can start with an email that you've gotten and you need to reply back really quickly, and you can just start from scratch and have it create an email that you are sending out to your families. Okay. And last but not least, generating original content. We've got academic content, informational text, math story problems, and YouTube summarizer. So again, let's jump over here. We're gonna click and clear that out. And let's see, math story problems. And open that one up. So here we've got 5th grade. We've got number of questions, let's say 3. I'm going to just click on the exemplar so you can see an example really quick. So we've had 7th grade, 7 problems, multiplying and dividing fractions. And the story topic is going to be managing money and investing like a stock market game. And it generates, just based on whatever your topic is, you can tie it to whatever your standard is. It'll generate them for you. And then as the teacher, you would go through and make sure that they made sense. You can tie them to what your students are interested in. You can export them to whatever program that you're using to either deliver them to your Google Classroom or your LMS so that kids can solve them. And it does it really fast. Okay, let's go to this at, I think we have time. We have about a half an hour. Okay, I'm going to skip the exploration and show you one more thing. So the next activity is called Magic Smashing, and this is where you put a couple of tools together to get the end product or whole entire lesson that you want. And so if you were to start with the standards unpacker that we just showed you, where it creates all of that series of information out of one standard. So you unpack your standard and then take one of your learning targets that it gives you, because you wouldn't teach a lot of times you wouldn't teach all of your learning targets all at once. So you take one of your learning targets and then go back and get your assessment. So maybe you want to start with a formative assessment that is just a quick multiple choice quiz. So 5 questions. So you would take that learning target and paste it into a multiple choice quiz to create a pre-assessment. And then you would also go over and take that same learning target and create a choice board so that kids could have some choices of how they were going to learn that learning target. And then use Raina to take that choice board and put it in order, put the choices in order from novice to mastery. So the easiest choice, maybe it would be vocabulary, all the way down to a more complicated choice. So have Raina put them in order. So kids would take their pre-assessment, go over to the choice board and work their way through from easiest to least rigorous to most rigorous, and then go over to Make It Relevant, take that same learning target, use the Make It Relevant tool to make sure that your choices were relevant to the students, and especially as they got to be a little bit more rigorous, that they weren't just easy things to do like vocabulary, but they were a little bit more enriching, and have that be the culminating activity. And then at the end, give them their post-assessment and have that be test their mastery of that learning target. And then you could go back to your standards unpacker and do the same thing for the next learning target. And all of that whole entire process, when you go through and start with Standards Unpacker and do this for these 4 tools, when I practice it in real life, the whole process takes about 10 minutes. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about before we go on to Magic Student is how to create a presentation from scratch. So if you take, one example is Would You Rather, but you could also just do any standards-based presentation using the presentation generator. So if you go over to MagicSchool, one of the really cool tools, super popular, is to type in presentation. And one of the tools that comes up is Presentation Generator. So choose your grade level, choose the number of slides you want it to be. The example that I was doing was creating a Would You Rather slide deck. So I've got the prompt right here. So if you wanted to open up that, you could actually just copy the text and put it in there.
You're welcome. Bye.
So you type paste that in there. So would you rather questions relatable to, in this case, it's going to be 5th grade students. And we're going to have it be related to the month of October, and the discussion questions are going to relate to character building. And the additional criteria are going to be that we are going to have discussion questions. And click generate. So you could also do this with any standard that you have and have it create a slide deck for your standards and then export that to Google Slides. So it creates that really quickly, and then once you get done, the export function exports it over to Slides, and you can download it into your Google Drive by clicking Export to Slides. You can also export it to Word. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there on the how would I create a rubric? There is a rubric generator. Same exact process as all of this. It's literally you fill in the boxes. It'll ask you what your standard is, how many categories you want for the rubric. So if you go back, I'm going to click over here.
Stacy, I dropped it in the chat, a link to that tool as well.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So we are going to jump over to the second half of this, which is going to be the Magic Student side of things. So Magic Student is an area where, as a teacher, you can curate the tools on that you would like students to interact with, and then create a room for students to join. And then they join with just their name, and then whatever tools you have added to the room, they're able to access. And then on the back side, you're able to see what the tools are or how they're interacting and what they're saying and how they're using them. So for example, some of the tools are, let me go forward here, going the wrong direction. So some of the reasons why we think using generative AI with students is a good idea is that students are already using AI in a lot of different ways. And so teaching them how to use it responsibly in school gives them a chance to understand different ways that AI is being used in a responsible way, so that when they're out there in the real world, they have a better understanding of how to interact with these systems in a productive way. And this is the only way to help them learn how to go forward in their adult life. So when you're in the MagicSchool platform, you'll see this little slider, and when you slide it forward to the Magic Student side, your screen will turn purple, and that's how you know that you're on the Magic Student side of the platform. And Let's jump over to take a look at some of the ways that you can use Magic Student tools. One of the big differences that Magic School has provided on the Magic Student side is that when you deliver a tool to students, you'll notice that the language and the format of the tool changes. You can definitely see that the interaction between on the student side is much more student-friendly language, and you're able to customize the tool to match the grade level of the student that it's interacting with. Okay, so over here on our screen, we're going to click on the slider in the upper right-hand side, and that will make your screen change to purple. And so suppose we wanted to deliver Raina, the chatbot, to our students. So we'll click on Raina, and that opens that up, and you can see it looks really similar. The format of the screen is very similar, right? You have your grade level, you have a conversation starter, and that sort of thing. So we'll select that one, and we'll click Launch to Students. And the first thing you'll need to do is to create a room for your students to be in. So you'll open up a new room, and the default name for a room is always just a generic name and the date. So I always rename it to be the topic of what I'm doing, but you would probably name it whatever your class period is. So I'm going to call it Wednesday webinar. And to the grade level, and you can have up to 250 people in a room if you wanted to. So you could change it to max out to whatever you wanted it to be, and then click next. And once you're there, you can see all of the different tools that you could put in the room. You would never put all 40 plus tools in the room. So I'm going to click just Raina and add that. And when you open up Raina and hover over it, you can see that the word customize comes up. And that means that you're allowed to customize certain aspects of Raina so that it operates very specifically for the room that you're putting it in. So you can change its name if you want to. You can tell it to behave in a certain way, give it certain instructions, and then you can tell it to have a conversation only in a certain way if you want to. So you can see, you can customize everything on this side, and then as you change it, you can see what it's going to look like to your students over here on the right-hand side. Almost all the tools that you deliver to students can be customized by the teacher on the left-hand side of the screen so that they are unique to the room that you're putting them in. So by say Raina for students, ask questions or get ideas through prompting Raina, the AI chatbot. So I'm going to say, this will be customized. And we're going to keep the grade level the same, and we're going to leave this the way it is. And when you see the little eyeball on the right-hand side, you can see that you can either turn that on or you can turn that off. So if you wanted to keep this transparent so that the kids can see what the specific instructions are, then you would leave it on. But if you wanted to have it be behind the scenes, then you can turn the little eyeball off so that the kids don't see it. You can still add the instructions, but the kids won't see what it is. And then once that's done, then you click next and it'll be finished and it'll be delivered to the students. And it gives you a little preview of how the chatbot is going to work. And then once it's done, you can see that this is the one tool that's going to be available in that classroom. And when you click Launch Room, it will give you the codes that you can give to your students so that they can get into the room. They can either join by a URL, you can add it directly to Google Classroom, or you can give them a QR code so that they can get into the room. Once they get in the room, you can get all the students who join will be listed. So I'm going to go show you an existing room so you can see what the rooms look like. So here's an example of a room that has students in it. So once people join, you can see everybody listed. You can see a quick little list of what they did and when they were in there. And then you can see when you click on each individual person, you can see a complete history of everything that they did. So you've got a really detailed dashboard behind the scenes of what each individual student did. So in the slide deck, I've got, just for your reference, I've got a lot of detailed steps on how to add things to the room, all of the components of the each individual part of the tools in the room, so that if you need to go back and have a quick little reference about that, you'll have it, because we only have about 8 minutes left. And I want to show you a couple more things. There are a lot of screens about each individual part of this. And how to get kids to join, and then how students join. So once they click your code, if you give them a code, if you give them a URL, or if the room is added to your Google Classroom, when students join a room, they don't have to log in or sign. There's no single sign-on or anything like that with MagicSchool at this time. When they scan your code or they click the link, it's like joining a Kahoot. They would type in their first name, and then this would light up and they would join the room. And once they're in, they'll see this little message about how to use MagicSchool responsibly and what MagicSchool recommends. And they also have some materials on their website for teaching kids about AI and how to use AI responsibly. So if this is their first time using AI, it's a good idea to go over some AI literacy with your students. So talking about how AI behaves, how interacting with AI is, and how AI is not a replacement for thinking, and how they're thinking alongside with AI. So doing a little bit of work with AI and teaching them about AI before you first put them into AI is a really good idea. And they'll see this message every single time. And then they click accept, and then they'll be in your room, and they'll be able to see whatever tools you've given them access to. They might just see one, or they might see however many you've put in there. So in this case, for example, there are 6 tools in the room, so they would see all 6 of them, and you need to give them instructions about how you want to use them and what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. All right, and so here's a little bit of information about what you see on the backside in your dashboard about each of an individual student. When you see a little alert behind the scenes, that'll mean that they have that there's something going on that the AI has flagged for you. So you'll see a little sign, and then you can go and identify that student either in person, or you can click on that note and see why they're saying what they're saying. So there is some monitoring behind the scenes. You can lock that student or pause them and go find out what's going on with that individual student. There's a lot of information behind the scenes also for you to be able to check on students, to view their output and make sure that you save it and export it so that you have an access to their records. And another piece of information about the flags. You can also pause students. You can let them resume where they left off so kids can rejoin their room. And then you can also remove them from the room if you need to, and then you can lock the room. When students try to rejoin a room that's been locked, they'll see a message. So you'll know that the room's locked, and they'll know that the room's locked, so that they won't be able to get back in. And we're going to skip the scavenger hunt because we're just about out of time. I wanted to make sure that you saw this little document that is on page 50, because this was one of the things that we found really helpful about using the writing feedback generator tool that is one of the newer tools in Magic Student. So if you are over here in the Magic Student side and you click on Launch to Students and find the generator that is called it is called writing generator, feedback generator, and use that document right here. The directions for using a rubric that you create, or one of the ones that is in the ELA Vic for high school writing, is you can upload it, and these are the directions for using that to allow students to get feedback on their writing using a constructed response prompt. So, and there's also a video right here from Andrew, and it looked like it would be a really good idea. Okay, and I keep losing my presentation. The next one I wanted to show you guys really quick is another way to use some of the generators in MagicSchool to use the rap battle or the song generator as a reflection tool, and then add it to something called Suno, which is a song generator. It's a lot of fun for kids, and it actually takes something that kids have a lot of fun with, which is the song generator, but sometimes might not actually be, is also a really good way to do a reflection. So kids can do a reflection using a 3-2-1 reflection or some writing, and then use that to generate song lyrics, and then go over to a tool called Suno and use that to create a song. And that's a good way to kind of combine tools. And there's some examples here in this link. And I can see by the chat that we are starting to run out of time. So I wanted to give you some more resources for MagicSchool. They're going to be here in these wakelets. You can see some other examples of the ways people have been using MagicSchool for different creative things, and using them in their classrooms. And the feedback form is in the chat, and it's also here in the slide deck. And there's a link here to make a copy of the slides if you would like to keep them and put them in your Canva account. And I appreciate you being here this afternoon and learning about MagicSchool. And if you have any questions, you definitely have our contact information. And I think that's it.